All right. No, no, no.
We
Oh,
are live now. All
all
right,
right.
everybody, we are live. We want to say hello to everyone across America. Please get this video shared out. I am humbled to be able to be here with two great fighters. We have Josue Lugo and Ken Tassi Jr., who is a active school board member, and we have Josue Lugo as well. Um, Let me make sure everything is up. Give me 1 second. Okay, so today we just wanted to talk to you guys about a few issues. I'm going to have to work on a stream, but we're going to give everything over to Josue, and
Awesome.
we could go ahead and get started. We want to welcome everybody on. Please share this video everywhere. The video is just going live now. Once again, Josue is going to take over while I work on one of the streams. Go ahead, Josue.
Awesome. Well, so thanks, Dave Jose, for having us on the show today. First, I wanted to start the show off by showing. Dave, can you actually share the screen for me? One in a second. I know he said he's going to. Maybe I'll share it afterward, but
You want the second one? Which one you want?
let me share the my screen for Chrome tab. 1 second here, and it's
The
going to be
the very first one you gave me.
it's going to be State Constitution Bill of Rights. Can you read? Can you see that?
Yep, there you go.
Awesome. So since Ken is a elected, uh, servant, and he follows the Constitution, I wanted to read to him, and I appreciate what he's doing to help the people. And here in Constitution, New Hampshire, Part One, Bill of Rights, Article 32, says that right of assembly, instruction, and petition. The people have a right in an orderly and peaceful manner to assemble and consult upon the common good, give instructions to the representatives, and to request of the legislative body by way of petition or remonstrance, redress of the wrongs done to them and of the grievances they suffer. So, today, we're giving instructions, we're teaching, we're learning, and we're having a conversation with an elected servant that's doing the will of the people, and that's something to be very appreciative, uh, from the bottom of my heart. So, Ken, I want to start that off by now you introducing yourself. Um, Tell us a little bit of your background, what you're doing to, here in Manchester in the school board committee, doing to protect the rights of the students. Uh, you know, Fighting, pretty much fighting in the trenches of sometimes not your friends, your enemies. You don't know who's your friends or not. But if we could talk about that, yeah, start off.
Yeah, hey, thank you very much, Josue and Dave. Great to see you here. It's an honor. Um, yeah, I can start by saying, I've been a resident of Manchester, New Hampshire for about 25 years. Um, Happily married for 33 years, three kids in their mid 20s, amazing kids, all musicians, but they also have jobs, and which is an amazing thing for musicians. And I would say the kind of the basis for my life philosophy is kind of standing on the foundation of Judeo-Christian principles and ideals. That there is a loving, benevolent God. I also feel that that God also suffers when He sees us kind of beating each other up, and kind of wants us to come home, but not just loving each other, but loving our enemies, loving people that we don't necessarily get along with, and that's sort of the basis for my whole modus my modus operandi for my life style. Um, I'm currently in real estate, but I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started companies over the years. Worked in diabetes drug development with a botanical drug that we created, and I would say back in early May, I'm a late comer to the scene that we're going to be discussing here. I would say spring of last year, just as a matter of curiosity, I began to attend different school board meetings and select board meetings around the state. Exeter, for example, Exeter, New Hampshire, Raymond, New Hampshire, Danville, New Hampshire. And what I saw was sort of a common theme was that folks that are in elected positions seem to, this is my perspective, seem to have been not giving the attendees, the parents and the local residents, the respect that they deserve. And
Right.
And it became sort of an interest of mine. And that's what led me to run for school board. So I was elected last November and passed my first policy, which part of my platform was really to invite more parental participation in the policymaking process. I want more of our students involved in it. I would like to see more parents involved. And this policy happened to be creating a glossary of terms, because we have a tendency to use abbreviations and acronyms and things like that the general public don't understand. So now our school board members have to spell out what it is that they're referring to during school board meetings and stuff like that. A little bit
Awesome.
long-winded, but take it away.
Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, definitely. So the topic that I wanted to talk about, it's been one of the things I've been fighting for since I first started going to the school boards last year in August, is parental rights. And what got me involved into one of the school board meetings is that our students were being forced to, I don't want to say the wrong words here because it could get us banned, but put things over their face, or either comply with that or not go to school. So I wanted to talk about how recently that the school board passed the policy or updated the policy to make it optional to wear something on your face. So I wanted to see what your thoughts on that was. Why the Department of Education took so long to realize that they were violating a policy that they wrote, and wanted to see what your thoughts on that, so that something like that won't happen again, so that the parents have closure or have a full picture of why this was going on and it didn't get fixed since the beginning. Yeah.
You're asking me, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, my personal view on mandates is that I am for less government control over our personal lives, over the affairs of our families and such. So when it comes to putting things on your face or whatever it might be, I think that parents should have the first say in how their children conduct themselves at school. I do believe in kind of the rule of law, and we have red lights for a reason. It keeps people from smashing into each other. But I don't like sort of over governmental bodies and institutions overstepping their bounds when it comes to telling parents and telling our children what they need to do at school.
And this is where, Dave, I want you to step in here and talk about the constitutionality of implementing policies that they think it's in the best interest of the public, but in reality, it could be violating one's own personal private health decisions or private rights. So I wanted to see what you could talk about on regards of these policies that they want to enact. These things for the better, but it's actually possibly violating our rights.
Well, first of all, we have to look at our duty as the people. If you look at the fundamental principles of law and what keeps our nation going, you'll see where we're told that we are to speak to the public officials and give them a frequent recurrence to fundamental principles. So it's a two-way street. You have people who often come into their work with a dream from childhood, wanting to help and save people and build people. And a lot of times you get teachers and people who are in public instruction that have that goal. One thing that is deep, though, is that as the people, we have a duty that we have not been taught. in school. And so that duty is to talk to the public officers in order to help them to see the fundamental principles that they too have not been taught in school. So when you look at the state constitutions and exactly what it says, that's usually not talked about in our schooling. And when you look at how attorneys approach the situation, they're not using our state constitutions either. But the state constitution is what every school teacher, every board member, every public servant is swearing to. So when you're trying to have a good discussion, you have to deal with what the trust indenture says or what the Constitution says. So if we have situations like at some school boards, you know, people are upset. They just come and say, I just don't like what you're doing. You're evil. You're satanic, right? That doesn't open the door for communication with something that everybody can read. Therefore, you're not doing a good job with those elected servants. Think about this. If you elect somebody to work in your trust or in the state under the state constitution, right? And you don't give them directives of what to do based on the law, with the constitution being created by the people, what do they work off of? So now we have bar association members. They're part of private associations. So they could have goals that are fundamentally different than the Constitution. So if you think about it, usually bar association members as court officers want to take things to a judge to be heard, where the Constitution says that the people have a right to instruct their representatives, right? The people have a right to consult for the common good. Now, understanding that we have been failing because the people have not been coming together and consulting for the common good. But the very fact that all three of us can be on a show today shows that when you open the door for peaceful conversation, that there are good people out there that are ready to hear. It's just that we have not all seen the state constitutions. So when it comes to making mandates against people, in America, we have republics. So all of our constitutions in the 50 states are Republican in form. So in a republic, you can never vote away a right. If you look at page 491 of the case, Miranda versus Arizona, you'll see where it tells us that where rights secured in the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking, which is what the legislative branch does, or legislation. The legislature can't write anything which would abrogate them. So your mask or what you want to put in your arm or not, what you want to do for your private health is actually not part of a republic where the government can make a decision, but it's in the private. It's a private decision. That's where HIPAA law came from. So in the private realm, you control what happens with your body, and the parents control the healthcare of the children. So understanding that, to make a mandate that somebody puts something on their face is illegitimate when it comes to the fundamental principles of law, and to prove it, even something as big as OSHA. If you go back and you look at the 1970 OSHA Act, you're going to find that in the OSHA Act, it tells you that nothing in this act shall be construed as giving authority to interfere with common law rights and statutory rights. So those common law rights are the ones in the bills of declarations of rights in your state. And y'all got some really good ones. So I hope that answered the question.
That's a good one. So definitely, and any thoughts on that, Ken?
I don't.
There's a lot of powerful stuff there.
Hard to follow that one up.
Yeah. So definitely, yeah. So I kind of want talk about also like the oath of office. I know that we talked about for New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. It was something that I was wondering for a while when they make the pledge. They don't mention the word state constitution or U.S. Constitution in your oath, and I just wanted to see what your thoughts on that was, Ken and Dave Jose, if you have any thoughts on that as well.
Sure.
Why that
at any point, in recent years, but
yeah,
I was actually surprised myself that there's no mention of the Constitution in it, and I actually have it on my screen. If you don't mind, I can read it for your viewers.
Yes.
I, Ken Tassi, do hereby swear and affirm that I will fulfill my responsibilities as school committeeman to the best of my ability and in accordance with the city charter, ordinances, and policies of the city of Manchester and the statutes, rules, and regulations of the state of New Hampshire. But as you can see, there's no mention of the New Hampshire Constitution here. I find that a little bit odd, and maybe you and I can work on creating some policy recommendations.
Yeah, and it does reference to read the city charter and the ordinance and stuff. And I skimmed through it, a few times to try and see where it even mentions the state constitution. You take an oath to it, and it's hard to find it, So that's why it should be something that's like on the front page or the top when you first read it, and just can't seem to find it. So Dave, what's your thoughts on why the oath is not included in that? Is that a big deal? Is it something minor? What's your...
Well, is I think is not good faith towards the public servants. So every government office, you have seats where people are serving the people, right? And across the nation, I've seen where there's been a lack of disclosure. And I think that is not fair to the teachers, not fair to the board members, not fair to those who serve, because when you are serving, you need to understand the duties that you have. And so when we have good people with a good heart, right? We heard Ken speak, earlier about God not wanting us to attack each other, right? He doesn't want us to have, confusion. And so when you give someone a charge and you tell them what you wish for them to do, you have to give them their duties for it to be full disclosure and fair to them. And this is why notices and affidavits are so important, because when you want to talk to your elected officials, you have to have a way to be able to do it. So the elected official, first of all, has to know that they're supposed to talk to you. But if they don't know that the state constitution says, for instance, in your state, in Article 8 of your Bill of Rights, you'll see clearly where it says that the government is to be responsive and accountable. Well, that's pretty huge, because you can only be accountable to what you know exists. So if you talk about the charter and the statutes, usually the attorneys understand that statutes are what can take a situation to court, and what gives authority to the legislature, right? And it's not really the legislature, it's going to be to the court through the legislature, because the legislature has they have a attorney, right? So you have legislative counsel for the ledge, right? And then when it comes to the executive branch, you have counsel. And when it comes to the judicial, you have counsel. So now what's happening is the attorneys are creating the text for what's going to be done. And a lot of times it omits. So it's rough, because everybody should know what the state constitution says, but your constitution in New Hampshire is so strong that the courts wouldn't be able to have control, and there wouldn't be as many cases. There wouldn't be as much confusion if the legislature and all the officials knew what the state constitution says. So they'll say, here, sign, swear that you agree. But remember this, out of all of it, the state constitution actually grants authority for political subdivisions to exist. So the only reason they could have a charter is because the people of the state gave authority for them to exist. The only reason that you can have statute, which is made in pursuance of the Constitution, the only reason you can have that statute is because it's made in pursuance of those. So by not showing the people who are working that they have a duty to carry out all those things is not good faith to the workers. So this is why the people must, and it is your duty. We must humbly reach out to all the public officials and give notice and start relationships so we can show them the law. Because we couldn't have a beautiful man on here talking to us about his family, his example, and having a good conversation if we didn't reach out to be able to talk in a peaceful, loving manner. This is what he's made of. So we're speaking his language. So in order to deal with the issues of life and government, we have to take our responsibility to communicate. And so that definitely needs to be addressed, but the people should give notice and show that, hey, there's something missing in your oath, a couple of things, let's get this fixed, because it's not giving full disclosure. And that's what we have to do. I mean, I love what Ken said in the beginning about what God desires when it comes to dealing with each other, because if you're not going to be fair, it doesn't matter if you like how you're treated. God doesn't give us an excuse and say, well, if you're treated bad, then you just become a bad person, right? If you think something is unfair, you just be negative. God wants us to give our brothers and sisters a chance. And so we got to start giving notice, and we need to put in there what's going on with the constitutions, because the constitutions are the fundamental law of the state, the highest law of the state. And there can be no direction if we don't know what it says, and it could be misdirection if there is court officers telling the legislature what to write.
Awesome. Yeah. And let me actually share a screen here just to be more emphasizing the oath here from the actual Constitution. Let me do you see my screen?
I see two. Which one you want? Yeah, I see it.
State Constitution.
Yes, sir.
So Part 2, State Constitution, Article 84 says oath of civil officers. Any person chosen governor, consular, senator, or representative, military or civil officer, town officers, accepting the trust shall, before he proceeds to execute the duties of his office, make and subscribe the following declaration. And then here's the oath. I, Josue Lugo or Ken, do solemnly swear that I will bear faith and true allegiance to the United States of America and to New Hampshire, and of the state of New Hampshire, and will support the Constitution thereof. So help me God. So right there, that little sentence there is missing. So you stop sharing the screen there, and I just wanted to read that to you. And,
that's great.
That's super deep, because that's the
so,
requirement for from the state constitution, right?
Yeah, that's what it says there. So I'm like,
yeah, when you have a prescribed oath or procedure by the Constitution, it must be followed. So they really need to fix that. That needs to be put in a notice, and they need to fix it immediately, because it's just wrong. But Ken, can you tell us the story how you hooked up with Josue, or how that all worked? Because I think that's very important for the people to see too.
I'm glad you asked. Yeah, thanks, Dave. Two things first, if you don't mind. First of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that my disclaimer, right? I am speaking on behalf of myself as an individual citizen of the United States and resident of Manchester, not speaking on behalf of the school board. In case there's anybody watching that wants to sort of drag me around later. So the other thing, Dave, I want to say that I love your position on civil discourse, right? The beautiful thing about our country is that when we have disagreements, we don't drag each other out in the street and beat each other up. There's a court of law, there's a constitution, and I love that you guys are promoting this. It just really warms my heart. This is the only way that we can come to some middle ground and work with each other and build a country of fairness and goodness. So as far as this point, Josue and I know each other from school board meetings. Now, while I was campaigning for my run as school board member, I had attended 5 or 6 of the school board meetings while I was attending these other town meetings as well. Josue was always there, and I'm like, who is this dude? He's always up in the front left corner of the room. It's his wife or his girlfriend, I'm not sure, is with him all the time.
Wife.
His wife, and tell her I said hello, and he's got his printouts ready. He's basically presenting his case to the board of school committee on a very consistent basis. So now, as a school board member, when I'm sitting on the other side of the fence from him, he's still there pretty much every week. I think he missed 1 week recently, but I respect him so dearly for getting out once a week. He could be watching stupid movies on TV, doing the things that he feels are important for us to know as elected officials. And I'm glad, thank you, Josue, for introducing me as a servant earlier at the beginning of the broadcast, because that is the view, that is the position that any official should take, that they are not here to tell the citizens what to do, but we're really here to listen and to carry their will forward. So that's basically how we met.
Awesome. And that's pretty cool that we met in the elevator,
In the elevator, right?
Yeah. I was like, this has to be a God thing, because I've been going there for a while. I'm like, when am I going to, break ground with one, who's going to talk to me eventually, is any board member going to come speak to me? And I was actually thinking about that the day I went there, and bam, God listened to me that day, and he's like, oh, bumped into the elevator, and there you go. We connected, So that was pretty.
Wait, so Ken, you saw the paperwork and stuff he had. You were able to see a notice that Josue did. Have you ever seen one of those before?
No, I haven't. Not
You
sitting on that side of the fence, I'll call it.
You just saw the preparation, though. You saw him with like documents there, getting ready.
Yeah, before I was sworn in, I was a spectator on the same side as Josue was, and at the beginning of our school board meetings, there's anywhere from 15 minutes or 30 minutes or so for public comment. Anyone who wants to attend that meeting and give public testimony has up to 3 minutes to say their piece. And Josue is always there. And my perception is that because he's there all the time, school board members may have a tendency, I'm just kind of telling you the way that I see it, may have a tendency to sort of like glaze over after a while, like, oh, here we go again. But I respect this so much that, one of our townspeople, one of my brothers is here every week to say what he thinks is important for the city. So,
definitely.
Yeah, and so when he does that, he basically asks our administrator to pass his material out to each of the school board members.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and awesome. Thanks for your compliments, Ken. I appreciate that. Kind words. And then Dave, if you could touch up on the aspect of the notices and affidavits that we serve elected, officials, in regards of when we know certain policies are in place that are violating our rights, and that's considered a form of maladministration because they took an oath and now they're violating it, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you could talk about that when we serve notice to the elected servants and they don't reply or don't respond, what possibly could happen down the road? If you want to talk about that.
Well, the thing is that when you deal with the duties of anyone who is in office, we all have, like I said, a trust indenture called the Constitution of the state. We also have a federal constitution. The trust indenture, if you look up the term in Black's Law, let's say 4th or 5th, it'll tell you that the trust indenture is a document that tells the rights of the beneficiaries, and it tells the duties and obligations of those who are trustees in any trust. So your states are just political associations ran like trust. You have officers who have duties. You have rights that are guaranteed to the beneficiaries. They cannot be touched. So when you look, for instance, in your state constitution, you're going to find a ton of things that are in there that explains what the people have a guaranteed right when it comes to those issues. So, for instance, Josue, if you want to pop up your screen again and show the state constitution.
Okay.
I can show you some of those things just so you can get an understanding of what I'm talking about. And this is the thing, is that all of these things deal with what is called good faith. And good faith is actually doing those things which are agreed upon. That's what good faith is. So can you make your screen bigger, Josue?
Is that working? I'm zooming
Yes, sir.
in.
Okay. Can you read Article 1 for me, Josue?
Article 1, equality of man, origin, and object of government. All men are born equally free and independent. Therefore, all government of right originates from the people, is founded in consent, and instituted for the general good.
Okay. So when we understand what we're seeing, first of all government is founded in people giving consent to through the Constitution for government servants to do certain things. And so notice that all government of right originates from the people. So there has to be something written somewhere that tells the government actors what they can do as authority and power, right? Now, inside of those things that we tell them they can do, we also limit their ability to do certain things. So let's look at Article 2, and we're going to see how this works.
Article 2, natural rights. All men have certain natural, essential, and inherent rights, among which are the enjoying and defending life and liberty, acquiring and possessing and protecting property, and, in a word, of seeking and obtaining happiness. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by this state on account of race, creed, color, sex, or national origin.
Okay, so we got a right to defend life, right? So we can stop anybody from harming us or killing us. Liberty, part of liberty is going where you want to go. Part of liberty is what healthcare you decide to have. Do you want to wear a mask? Do you not? Do you want to get a shot? Do you not? All of those things are able to be controlled by the people. So you have the right, also, the government swears that you have the right to obtain happiness. So liberty and happiness go along with each other. So if somebody forces you in a voluntary association to do something that you don't want to do, right, without right, then that is a wrong. So I'm going to give you clarity so you can understand that. So if you go down to Article 2B, can you read that out for us?
Right of privacy. An individual's right to live free from governmental intrusion in private or personal information is natural, essential, and inherent.
So you got to think about this. If somebody says you have to have this shot in your private health in order to be around us, you already swore in the state constitution that you have a right to be in the private and that they cannot interfere with your private information. So this is where warrants come from. You can't even issue a warrant without having probable cause that somebody harmed somebody and somebody swearing under oath or affirmation that it happened and they were harmed. So now when you understand that, there's certain things that are in the private that are off limits. And the purpose of government is to protect your natural and individual rights. Now, here is where it gets heavy, because your healthcare decisions, passports to go around places, right? The people already have a natural right to use the state. This is why the people can give the government the authority to drive down a street in the state. This is why they can give them the ability to sit in the houses. This is why they can give them the ability to do the things they do, because the people already own it by right. Now, when you look at Article 3, it is going to be just nailed down when you see what it says. It's so deep.
Society is organization and purposes. When men enter into a state of society, they surrender up some of their natural rights to that society in order to ensure the protection of others. And without such an equivalent, the surrender is void.
So you have natural rights that belong to you, right? One of them is the right to be in the private, that was just right above. One of them is religious freedom, which is below. So if you block somebody's ability to exercise their natural rights of life, liberty, happiness, and property, you are going 180 degrees against what it is that you swore you would do in the trust indenture. So when we talk to people, we give out these notices of maladministration because in the state constitution, which is hidden from most government servants, um, it actually tells that they swear that they will do all these things that are here and that is not negotiable. So the oath really is, hey, I will never touch your religion. I will never touch your right to keep everything in the private. Your information is not my business. I don't want to see it. You keep it. My duty is to serve you, right? Like Ken said about being a servant, right? Your duty is to help people attain their goals because that's what government was put here for. So when you understand that and you have that faithfulness that Ken is talking about, you realize that everything that you do, when someone tells you that you can bind this person and say you got to wear this, you got to do this, or you can't come here, you can't do that, you're actually trampling the oath. And this is why I believe, and I can't say it's 100% on purpose, but this is why I believe that the state constitution is not in that oath, because if you saw it and you read it, it would make you say, holy moly, I didn't know this was in here. And as I said, this is not taught in school, but it's in our state constitutions. It is the binding document for all state and political subdivision actors. Awesome. And it's not taught. So I think that we got to do better because, you know, if we don't give notice, people can do wrong and just mess up by mistake because somebody told them to. But once we give notice, all of us should be able to see that we have private affairs that cannot be interfered with. It's already sworn to. And then in that case, you know, you do what the Bible says. You go to the person one-on-one first. You let them know, hey, this is what the law says. This is what's happening, right? You have to make sure that you're righteous in your approach. Then you give them a chance to see. And then if they do not follow what is right, you can bring witnesses. So you can get an affidavit done. And the notary can be a witness, and also they act as a justice of the peace with the jurat. But then what happens is you serve the affidavits, and once those affidavits are served and they don't respond with constitutional authority to do what they're doing wrong against you, what ends up happening is it stands as a record. And that record can be used in any court case in the future, in any, you know, legislative investigation. It can be used there. And before any grand jury. So it could become a really bad situation because you have openly showed the law and nobody can deny what the law says once read. So that's what happens when you give notice.
Yeah, awesome. And Ken, regarding what we just read right now, you know, it brings me to the next topic of indoctrination to our students in our public schools, with certain topics being discussed without parents' knowledge, without parents' consent. And I wanted to see what your thoughts are on this topic, indoctrination, and certain topics of the trans movement that's being pushed now into all public schools.
Sure.
I wanted to see what your thoughts are in regarding also the constitutional rights, if any of these are being violated, if these such policies are being pushed forward towards students, and again, without the parents, where knowledge is to where I'm finding out that we're not being told this is going on.
Sure. In the New Hampshire House, just a few weeks ago, there was a bill that had made it past the legislation. It's Bill 14, HB 1431. And I'll just read kind of the opening paragraph, if you don't mind. And this is about parental rights, you know, creating a parental bill of rights. The declaration of the purpose. The general court finds that it is a fundamental right of parents to direct the upbringing, education, and care of their minor children. The general court further finds that important information relating to a minor child should not be withheld, either inadvertently or purposefully, from his or her parent, including information relating to the minor's education. the general court further finds it is necessary to establish a consistent mechanism for parents to be notified of information relating to the health and well-being of their minor children. So just based on that, this, I don't know the schedule, but this is going to go, to the Senate pretty soon, and then to the governor if it passes Senate. But this is going to basically create a conundrum for a lot of the school districts around the state who have taken it upon themselves to dictate, or I should say to circumvent the parental rights of families around the state. So as far as indoctrination goes, this is something that I haven't followed it sort of to the degree that you and Dave have. I'll say it a third time. I'm fairly new but very impassioned about this sort of subject matter. But as far as indoctrination goes, I've seen an agenda that has been sort of woven into the fabric of American educational institutions. This goes back to my time in college, where my philosophy teacher was just an outspoken Marxist. And, if you study dialectic materialism or historical materialism, you'll understand that there is almost a requirement of conflict in order, sort of that philosophy that comes from Marx and Engels is that two sides must be fighting each other for something new to be born out of it. Nothing great can come unless there is a thesis.
Okay, wait. Who the heck are you? Because how do you know this? Holy moly. That is so huge that he's talking about this. Oh, wow. Bombshell. Okay. First of all, let me just thank you for telling the truth. Because, guys, everybody needs to listen to what this man is saying. He is dropping some wisdom on you that we just posted about the other day. And I'm shocked that we didn't talk about this beforehand. We just talked for the first time right now today. What he's telling y'all is so huge that it can change the course of our country just for the simple fact that he's talking about it. Please continue to go ahead. Oh my God.
Okay, so I'm going to sort of like divert for a second and tell you that I had worked as a volunteer in South Korea during a time when the North Koreans were basically swimming up on the shores and putting on their nice clothes and blending into the societies. They'd get into the bookstores, into the universities. Just before I arrived there, some North Korea sympathizers in the South, burned 8 policemen alive in the library. So it's violence is a part of that that mindset. I don't want to get too deep into that whole piece of it, but so I've seen it firsthand how overtly certain elements will try to get into the unions, the education system, corporate, media, entertainment, all that sort of stuff. So yes, it's in our schools. Manchester, I would say, is pretty lightweight, compared to California, maybe, or other parts, or Chicago. I don't know, but I would say that it's very subtle. Almost to the degree that it flies under the radar screen. Now, as far as the trans policy in Manchester, we're in a lawsuit by a Jane Doe right now. The district is. So I can't really voice my personal opinion, I would say. I think I'm going to take the err on the side of caution in that respect. But as it relates to the HB 1431 that I just read an excerpt from, I think that if that does get past the Senate and is signed off on by the governor, the policy will be moot. So, but what that policy does in our district right now is that if if a child, and this is all about protecting the the privacy of the kids. If a child, for some reason, let's say a 13-year-old girl goes to her teacher or dean or what have you and says that I'd like to be called by a different name, that is going to be protected by the school, and that when a parent calls in, the teacher is required to refer to that student by their birth gender. So it's essentially hiding very important health information from a parent, which would be contradictory to this bill that's going to the Senate. Like I said, I'm not going to sort of talk too much about how I feel about it. We're going to go through the legal process.
Definitely understood. And that also it brings into the topic of communication with the school district. When I try to look for information, I want to hear from the actual person, right, that deals with this stuff. So I'll be calling certain. Can you hear me all right? Is the audio good? All right, good.
You're great.
I was muting it because my dog's in the background going crazy. So when I call the school district and try to speak to key people there, I get them run around. I try to find information regarding what curriculums are being taught, what books are being given. I can't get anybody. So as your position in a school board committee, I wanted to see if you have the authority to do some type of audit in the curriculum where we could just have a simple, maybe on the website of the school district, where on the front page it says, okay, these are the controversial topics or books that are being given to students, and what are your thoughts on it, or what's your opinion? Like, they don't do none of that. So, because I found out one of the board meetings I went to a while ago, I don't think you were there yet. This parent brought a book, and they read some chapters in the book, and it was talking about sexual stuff, and this stuff was being the kids were being forced to read this stuff, and I guess the school board didn't know about it, and one of the school board members was pretty much saying it was okay to read those books. So that's kind of not great. So I just want to see what your thoughts on that, of how can we find out exactly what books are being given, what special interest groups are involved in promoting certain types of materials to the students, like so that parents can be aware what's happening.
Yeah, for sure. As a matter of fact, this was before I took office, but I was in the room. I was sitting just a few seats behind you, and I did hear this very emotional testimony given by a mother.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I recall that she had an experience in her own life that this book triggered. There was kind of an abusive situation in her own life that she explained, and to see her daughter being given a book that at a very young age, I think might have been in third grade or something. I could be wrong there, but it was very alarming, and to hear that most of the board members were also not aware that this book was in circulation in the school was also more alarming to me. I would say that that everyone on our school board, from what I can see, are good people that want the best for the kids. The way we go about it is a little bit different philosophically, but certainly, you understand the process, right, Josue? You can give public comment. I can respond, right? So school board members are given an opportunity to respond to people giving testimony, and at that moment, I can make a motion to send something to a committee. There are special committees that can be set up, through correspondence with the vice chair of the school board, or it can be brought up at new business. If you stick around towards the end of the meeting, we can bring it up in new business and try to establish some more dialogue on the subject. And as long as you get a motion and a second, it'll become a part of the next meeting. You also are aware, I think, that let's say our meetings take place on a Monday. we have to have, if we want to have an item on the agenda for the upcoming meeting, let's say 2 Mondays from now, then by next Tuesday at noon, we have to submit our information and evidence and such to be brought up as a topic, either as an information item or as an action or a consent item to be voted on. But I think something like that would probably go first between the committee that I sit on, which is the Teaching and Learning Committee. And then if it gets past the Teaching and Learning Committee, then it'll go to a full board vote. But certainly, it's something I'm very interested in exploring. The reason that I asked to be on the Teaching and Learning Committee is because I was concerned at like when I went to this school board meeting in Exeter, there was a kind of a joint district. I think there were 30 board members from 5 different schools there. Someone held up a book. It was called "This Book is Anti-Racist," and it was being taught to young kids, or passed out to young kids. And there's some just very blatant strangeness in it. The teachers think they're doing good, whereas I believe that it's actually creating more separation and division between people. It really doesn't help. Also, one of the parents in that same meeting got up and asked a question and asked anyone who does not agree with critical race theory, please stand up. And only two of the board members out of 30 people stood up. So, whatever that is, over 90% of the people that are making policy for that district think that CRT is okay, or they are perhaps afraid of being, ostracized by their colleagues. We don't know.
Yeah. Big touchy topic right there is going on.
It is, yeah. I know that this is something that you wanted to talk about during.
Yeah, that's right. That's actually one of the note topics to talk about. Glad we talked about that. Now I know we agreed on a certain time today. Dave, is there anything you want to?
I'm good. Hey, Josue, can I show something real quick? So on what you guys said about the issue with things happening inside of the curriculum, inside of classes, right? So is deep what Ken said once again about this, what happened out of the country with infiltration, and it's very deep. When you trace things back and you start finding out there's certain groups across the world that had no belief in fundamental rights and natural rights of people or individual rights. So they usually like to say that your rights are based on you as the people as a whole, and you can change things by voting somebody in new every 4 years to kind of dictate to you what your rights are going to be. The problem is that in our constitutions, our forefathers across the country usually blame the great legislature God, right? Or they blame God for all of their liberties and freedoms, and they thank him for it. And then they create their constitution. So they show what spirit they're creating the constitutions in. Now, what's deep is when you look at this infiltration, or you look at this idea of taking power by going into the important offices and seats, you'll find that JFK talked about that a couple of weeks before he died. You'll see Abraham Lincoln talking about the infiltration into his army and how these certain people were trying to kill him who didn't believe in freedom, and they would get caught, sometimes trying to shoot him in the back. One of those groups, Booth, who actually killed him, was part of. Now, what's deep when you look at the Communist Party of China and who kept them afloat in recent history, you'll find that it's the same group that pretty much also has started teaching all of our law schools. They take over most of the seminaries and Bible teaching colleges and our libraries. So a lot of the information in books and in libraries are disappearing. And it's kind of crazy when you have historic definitions and they lose size rather than gain size. So you have words which later on can mean different things, right? But the fundamental meaning, the historic meaning, is swiped away. And then you come up with some other things, even in law books. So this is important because when we look at your state constitution, so there's people who are teaching things in a school, which anything that's a curriculum in a school, which schools are funded by the people, created by the people, and it is government, right? So the curriculum for the schools and what they use would be government records, right? We should be able to have access, because you serve the people, to what it is that you're doing, because we created you. Now, I don't want to just say it from my own words. I would like for you to share your constitution, Josue, and I want you to go to your Bills of Rights, and I want you to go to number 8. And I want you to see something because it's really deep. Here's what attorneys will often do. Attorneys will teach the legislature when it starts to get too hot and the people are starting to come too hard. They have to kind of turn everything to make it seem like, okay, we're going to create something so the people can use their rights. But remember, statutes are created in pursuance to the Constitution or the state constitution, right? So what we have to do is we have to understand what the trust indentures already say. Because if we don't know what they already say, we can't deal with the issues that would affect us. So, Mr. Lugo, could you please read this? And Ken, tell me if you heard this before or if this makes sense in what the people have the power to do, just from your own personal opinion. This is not you as a board member, just from what you see and read as one of the people. Okay, so Josue, can you read this, please?
That's right. Accountability of magistrates and officers, public's right to know. All power.
Okay, wait. So before we read that, just the subtitle speaks of something called the public's right to know. So there's no such thing of a statute that could remove your rights. So you have what's called a right to know. Now, the problem you're going to have is if any government official doesn't want the people to know, they're going to have to show a constitutional provision that gives them authority to ignore the people, right? So keep reading for me, Josue.
All power residing originally in and being derived from the people, all the magistrates and officers.
Okay, let us stop here. So the source of all the power government could possibly have is the people. So every single thing the government can do only came from the people having the right to do it, and then granting some of that authority to the government, still holding the highest power, though. All right, keep going, Josue.
The people, all the magistrates and officers of government are their substitutes and agents, and at all times accountable to them.
Okay, so the government is accountable to the people at all times, right? So when you read what you're about to read, you're going to have to wonder, is a statute necessary to give people what already has been sworn to in the main document? All right, keep going.
Government, therefore, should be open, accessible, accountable, and responsive.
Okay, now that's a mouthful. So the government has to be open. So you have to have the ability to talk to them, right? They have to be accessible. They can't say, we don't want to talk to you. They have to be accountable. So that means if you want to give a rebuke or even show that there's room for discipline, they are bound to you by the Constitution. Not that they might listen to you if they want to. They are bound by the oath they give to be responsive and accountable to you. And what's the last part, Josue?
And responsive.
And responsive. So they got a duty that they swore to respond. So let's read the next part.
To that end, the public's right of access to governmental proceedings and records shall not be unreasonably restricted. The public also has... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The public also has a right to an orderly, lawful, and accountable government. Therefore,
okay. No, we only need this part because the other part is going to start talking about court cases. So the thing that we have to understand is that the law is what creates government. So these constitutions are what gave the government the authority to even act. And then when we approach them, the fundamental principles of law and rights of all men in all Republican governments tell us here in the fundamental principles in this state that government should listen to us. They should respond. They should be accountable at all times, not every 4 years. You know, this is simple speech. So when you look at this, you got to stop and say, how is it that a government servant who gets their power from the people will tell the people, well, you know, maybe we'll listen to you or maybe we won't. Maybe we'll hear your issues. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll have a meeting on that. Maybe we won't. And you do get public commenting for a few minutes. But the issue is we have things that are so much more deep than just a few minutes. And if you look at how much we learned just from Ken talking today. He brought up something that is probably the biggest thing I've ever heard a public officer ever say, ever, when he explained how things work with certain groups coming in and trying to change things. That is, I mean, I've never been blown away on a show where government officials said something. I am blown away. I couldn't even keep my mouth closed. I'm like, what? My chin hit the floor, because it takes a powerful and brave person to tell the truth about what's happening that is not usually seen in the public. So that was huge. But just know that the people have the power to give notice and have response at all times, and from a place of government being accountable, not just listening if they want to. But Ken, can you tell us what you think about what you just saw? Because when you look at a parental bill of rights, it would probably do a similar thing, but it's going to be statutory, which the highest law is in the Constitution. So if you put it outside of the Constitution, or you write it and you don't tell, hey, and this is already guaranteed in the Constitution, then what will happen is later on, it can be separated, and the people will believe that the only way they have these rights is if a statute says so. But go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I would say that, you know, when we read through that, and thank you, Josue, I think that if school board members around the country, elected officials around the country, if there was some provision in in city charters that required elected officials to understand their constitutions and the responsibilities that they had to the people who they represent, my gosh, what a great country we would have. People would feel represented. People would feel listened to. I can say that Manchester, New Hampshire, yes, we're open. Yes, we're accessible. Our phone numbers and our email addresses are posted right on the website. I take my calls and I try to be responsive as much as I can. And from what I've seen, other school board members are as well. But that's not the way it is in, throughout our country. So I'm getting an education today. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are my heroes. If I can say one thing to the folks who are listening in, I'm probably close to twice as old as you guys. I don't know, and I know less than half of what you guys do on you guys are like constitutional scholars. Dave, I know that you're kind of a national hero in that respect.
Dave's the man.
Yeah. My point being,
hey, I'm a small fry. It's all good. I'm a small fry.
No, that's right. That's right.
my point is that if you've considered, or if you've said, I will never run for office, I don't know what to do, I don't have the background, I don't have the foundation, just do it anyway. You will have the support by folks like Dave and Josue, people in of like mind in your communities that will guide you and help you. And I think it's a great way to really participate in the formation of your towns and school districts.
Awesome. And that's cool. I wanted to read one quick thing from the, let me share my screen. Is it still? Oh, that's the wrong one. The next one after that. Yeah, that one right there. Let me zoom in there to the Supremacy Clause. Can you read that, guys? So I want to hear your thoughts on that too, Dave. The Supremacy Clause of the Constitution of the United States,
You got to scroll it
Articles.
out a little bit more for everybody to see. I'm sorry.
I can see it, but if you could, if you could zoom in a little bit.
It's not. Actually, let me. It's not letting me
Control
do it.
scroll.
Oh, there you go. It's kind of jig. How about that? No, it goes backwards. Um, let me. Well, you guys can look it up. Let me just read out loud, and you could definitely look it up
Sure.
on that later for the viewers. So pretty much it's Supremacy Clause of the Constitution of the United States, Article 6, Clause 2, establishes that the Constitution, federal laws made pursuant to it, any treaties made under its authority constitute the supreme law of the land, and thus takes priority over any conflicting state, city, or town laws, policies, rules, and mandates that violate state's Constitution and Bill of Rights. It also provides that the state courts are bound by and state constitutions subordinate to it, the supreme law of the land. So I pretty much I wanted to leave it off with that, pretty much where in the future, if any policy that is being considered in the school board, it always has to be kept in mind, before I vote on this, is it gonna, you know, violate the Constitution? The Constitution, it needs to pass the Constitution test. See that if everything's lined up right, nobody's rights are being violated, and that's my understanding of that. So Dave, if you want to talk a little bit about that, or pretty much
Can you make it bigger again? Because I missed some. You broke up a little bit and left out. Can you make it bigger so I can see what it's saying?
Oh man, I'm having a hard time like zooming in this thing. I have to let me see if I can look it up about
You know how I am. I'm 100%. You must hear everything clearly before you respond. So the Bible tells you,
that's right.
it is foolish of a man to answer a thing before he hear the whole matter, right?
Right.
So you got to be wise when you act. So everything that we do is super important, and there are people watching who are looking to learn and grow, and it's very rare to be able to have a beautiful conversation with men who are just coming together to talk about what's right and building and doing great things. And I'm humbled to be able to be on today and hear these wonderful things and to be able to discuss. And if you understand, if you notice, we're talking about the Constitution, we're talking about things peacefully. All of us here can look and see what's written, and none of us are saying, oh, you're crazy or you're a weirdo for saying that because you're whatever, we're just using what's written. And I think that all of us, if we want to do good things, we can learn, because we got to learn some powerful stuff from Ken. Ken dropped my mouth to the floor. I'm still amazed, right? But it's crazy how God works, because I got a message on my YouTube to talk about the Hegelian dialect, right? And the principles. And I was doing some study yesterday and listening to the laws of power and how certain individuals take over and infiltrate. And then literally 24 hours later, Ken comes and just knocks me out my chair. I'm like, wow, right?
You got something to talk about.
Oh my gosh. Like the power and magnitude of what has been said is outrageous, and it's a powerful testimony, an example of what happens when you get out there and speak, and you never know who you're affecting in the room. And for Ken to say, hey, I saw Josue over and over again here, and every time I look out, he's up there to the left. It means something, guys, because you never know who's going to come into office or who God is going to use to bring forth fire. And we see that Ken got a lot of fire in him and a lot of truth and a lot of wisdom. And we have the ability to be able to hear this, but what if Josue didn't go speak, right? What if Jose didn't do any notices? What if Josue gave up? A lot of people say, well, if the government didn't do everything I said on the first time, my notice must not have worked. Well, we are sitting here with a man of wisdom today, right? And notice that the man of wisdom didn't say, this sounds stupid. He said, oh, I learned something, right? So real men can come together and talk about real things, and you don't have to have fear, because God has already went beforehand and brought good people for you to walk into. You just got to walk, right? But we would never have this if Ken didn't do what was right. Ken could have stayed at home too. Ken could have never ran, but Ken came to those meetings as well. So you just look at the alignment of how things work on perfect timing and all the wisdom and understanding that could be dropped. But Josue, I couldn't hear everything. So I wanted you to reread that if you could.
Right. I was reading the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution, Article 6, Clause 2.
You want me to share it again or no?
Do you want me to share?
Oh, yeah.
You can share.
I can zoom it in.
I just shared it, but I don't know if you have to click on it. But yeah, Ken, if you got it pulled up right now, I have it pulled up too, but I think you just got to click on it, Dave.
Hang on a second.
But definitely that Supremacy Clause, that's something like when I read that, it's like it's pretty powerful that, before, policies or statutes or anything.
There you go.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir. Oh, and you can zoom too. Look at that zoom tool. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Mine was glitchy on my side. Isn't it?
That's good technology right there. All right, you want to read it again, Josue, because we can see it.
Yeah.
Can you tap it a couple of times, Ken, please, sir?
Good. All right, so you got it there, Dave?
Yes, sir.
The top part is just the bottom one is the actual quote. The top one is just added a few opinions on it, but then the bottom one is the full text.
Okay, so where it is deep, and this is going to be huge. So if you look at the bottom, it says, "And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding." So what you got to understand is the Supremacy Clause deals with certain things. So the Supremacy Clause shows the things that are granted in the United States Constitution from the people. Because let's remember, the United States Constitution, if you just look at the preamble of it, is written by the people. The authority to create it is by the people. So what happened was the people came together and create a better union, right? A better group of people who can function to carry out the purposes of the 50 states together. So what happens is we gave certain authority to the United States government. If you want to see those things, you go to Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution, and it's going to tell you the 19 different things that the government of the United States should do. You go to the 9th and 10th Amendment, you're going to find that it's going to tell us that, how the power resides in the people that was not expressly given to the servants in the government or prohibited to the states. When you understand that, what it's saying is the power that is granted in the United States Constitution over these subjects, and there's 19 of them, what happens is that those are going to be first in the pecking order. But then in your state constitutions, there's a ton more things that are rights that have been reserved to the people that we never granted to the federal. So when you look at the Supremacy Clause is not that the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land and everything. The United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land over things that it was given jurisdiction to handle. Everything else is going to go back to the people or what the people gave the state's authority to do. Yeah. So even when you look at like elections, you look at the United States Constitution, you're going to see where elections are going to be spelled out and the people are going to tell the state governments, the legislature, what they can do. So the legislature is told what they can do in the states by the power of the people in the written document, United States Constitution. So when you understand that there are certain things that you go to the United States Constitution first. So if it's dealing with what the legislature can do in the states, dealing with that situation of who you pick for government, is going to be first. But let's say if you wanted to talk about your right as one of the people to bear arms. Well, the United States Constitution tells that there's a right to bear arms. But even before that, every state worker and political subdivision worker swears that you have the right to protect yourself and that you have a right to bear arms in all of the state constitutions in one form or another, even California. So when you see that it says you have the right to protect yourself or your life and liberty, literally what that means is, you know how the police have the power to protect and serve? We entrusted them with that. When the police go around and they can have an AR-15, it is only because the people who granted them the authority had it first. And this is a mix-up where people forget that the rights that are declared in the state and federal constitution are not the same, right? So if you go to Declaration of Rights, California, number 24, you'll see where it tells you the rights guaranteed in this California Constitution are not necessarily dependent upon those guaranteed in the United States Constitution. So they're different. So we have to know there are certain rights that belong to the people that were here before government and the United States Constitution. So think about it. Every right that is declared in the first states, right? There were 13 states here before the United States. So when you understand that, the states had to create, the people of the states had to grant authority to create the United States, which means the power to abridge also belongs to the people. So when we look at the Supremacy Clause, we have to be careful because there are some rights that are private rights of the people that the United States Constitution can't touch either. And the legislature, for instance, the federal legislature can't write statutes that actually go against the obligation of contract. So you think about that. Because see, sometimes in the federal legislature, they start talking, they say, hey, we want to write a law that says we can control you going outside. We can do this mandate and force you to do this. Or we can write some statute called Title 42 and say that you must follow this emergency order. You cannot make legislation against the rights of people, and that's even in the trust indenture for the United States. So we got to remember this text at the top. Look at what it says. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof. That's the magic word. When you write a law and is not in pursuance to the already granted power that we gave them in this federal constitution, they're breaking the law. So we have to know and look and say, okay, wait. So you say that you have the power to force everybody to stay in the house or take a national passport or whatever. Okay, can you show me where we gave you the authority in the United States Constitution to tell the people what to do? Because when I go to Article 1, Section 8, I see where it says you can make rules for government. I've never seen where it said you can make a rule for the people. So now you got to wonder, where did you get that authority? And if you can only make law that is in pursuance to the Constitution, and you make something that is not in line with granted authority that we can clearly see, you're breaking the law. So we got to be wise with what we allow to happen, because just like Ken said, if there are groups that are looking to gain more and more power, right, and they're infiltrating or they're trying to sway the belief system of the people, then what happens is if you don't explain these things clearly, somebody can get connected to government officials at the highest level in the United States and say, hey, you got the power to tell them they got to stay in the house. Hey, you could shut down commerce. You could shut down pipelines. You can leave the border wide open and it doesn't matter. Even though you're supposed to protect the border by law and you're supposed to protect the people of the United States, and anything else would be a violation or a trespass against the people, you could just go ahead and write that we could take all their money and give it to the Ukraine or whoever else and do side business. And you could write a statute that says anything. But remember, they can only write statutes bound in the things that we gave them authority over. And this is what you're going to find out if you go look. Almost all of the crazy, outrageous statute that is created in the federal is made under the Commerce Clause. It assumes that when you do something they don't like, you're doing it in commerce. Now you got to wonder, why the heck would that happen? Because regular men and women, when we go to the store and get some milk for our family, that's not commerce. When we go to school, that's not commerce. When we're just going around in our state, that's not commerce. So we gotta look at that wisely when we deal with those issues, because the only way to correct what is wrong is to understand the granted authorities. And I'm sorry for speaking so long, but I gotta say that because this could get bad if we don't know this.
That's good stuff.
You're muted, Josue. And thank you, Ken.
Oh, forgot the dog. So blame the dog. So yeah, definitely, Ken. That's something to take with you to your heart. When it comes to your decision making in the school board. To spread the word as well to your fellow, colleagues, school board members, to let them know, to read this, to be informed about the Constitution, Supremacy Clause, and everything we talked about, so that when the next policy that they gets float on, they're not gonna violate their oath, and they're not gonna do the wrong thing. So that's something that is good to know, bring up.
Yeah, I'd love to be in close contact with you, Josue.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, appreciate that.
We can promote those principles.
Awesome. So yeah, with that, we've been going for a long time here. I appreciate that. I know we agreed on a shorter time, but sometimes when we're talking, we just can't stop when the fire is coming out. So we gotta keep on going. So
I had a good time, definitely.
Hey, it was an honor being on with you guys.
It's an honor for me. I'm happy y'all let me hang out. Like, this was amazing.
So
this was amazing.
I'm glad everybody knows right now, that this is also the update. My update was overdue, considering the notices that I served the school board. So everybody knows that here in Manchester, things on your face are now optional. It could have been due to the work that people helped out in filling the job forms that I did back in December. I served the school board over 502 notices. That could have helped.
Amazing.
Yeah. The people helped out filling that notice. So I printed them out. I served them. My team, went there and helped me serve the notices. It was like 2 baskets full of paper. So it got served. So that could have helped the decision, process of making things optional. We don't know, but it could be a coincidence. But other than that, I feel I did the right thing by giving notice. Didn't get an exact answer that my work helped, but I feel like it did. A lot of people around the country.
But you'll never get an answer. I tell you that. Like, when somebody realizes things are wrong and it's affected the rights of people, that's kind of like, so I'll just give you a quick example real quick so everybody can understand this, because this is important. So when you do your work and you put things out there in order to inform government, so a lot of times I get people who say this: well, if your stuff made a difference, I want you to give me a judge's written order that says that we were wrong and exactly what you said is what caught us, and this is why we're getting rid of the case. Well, if a judge says that you have shown him that he didn't have jurisdiction to do something, or jurisdiction was not proven, that is a criminal act to have a case with no jurisdiction. So for somebody to tell you didn't have jurisdiction is utterly ridiculous, because that would be saying I broke the law. But let's go a little bit further. With every single Supreme Court case that you've ever seen, the Supreme Court, like for instance, Miranda versus Arizona wanted to say, you know what? We don't have anywhere in our statute that says we have to read you your rights. It doesn't matter if the state constitution shows that we should, that we should serve you in this way, right? In fundamental principles of law. But forget it. We're not going to do it, right? The Supreme Court said, no. Y'all got it wrong. Now, all these lower courts that just say, no, it's okay to do in the lower level courts, The Supreme Court said, oh no, y'all definitely wrong. Your statute, if you got a statute that makes you think that you can do this way, it's wrong. Your judges who said that you could do it were wrong. And we're going to go ahead and fix it. We're going to show you once and for all that low-level thinking and craftiness is not going to fly. Now, when the higher level Supreme Court smacks down what the lower level court said, can anybody show me one time where the lower level courts come and say, oh, sorry, oh, powerful and masterful Supreme Court, we were actually using the wrong jurisdiction and lying to the people, and we let these prosecuting attorneys go after these people. And if they wouldn't have said anything, we would have just ran with it. But since y'all got involved, we want to just write out in the public that we were wrong. Have y'all ever seen a lower level court do that?
Never.
No. They just take it and shut up and let justice be had. So why in the world do you think, for the people who are more powerful than the Supreme Court, that actors who've been doing stuff wrong are going to come on and say, here, I'm going to write it on a piece of paper. I went against your rights in the state constitution, which is a felony. And this is what I did wrong. And when you gave me notice or affidavit, that is exactly what changed my mind. They're just going to be quiet. And the first chance they get, they're going to just swap. Okay, we're done. We ain't doing that no more. Whoop, we learned a lesson, right? Mm-hmm. That's how it's going to be. So when you are dealing with government actors, just know that they are people too. And y'all know there's times that you've been driving a little bit too fast and a cop pulls up on you and they're like, you know how fast you were going? You're like, I don't answer questions, right? Yo, behind, don't say, I was going 272 miles per hour and trying to do a mile long race test to see how fast my vehicle could go, right? Mm-hmm. You don't do that. So let's stop acting like every government official is going to come out and just say stuff to incriminate themselves, but be thankful when they change their behavior.
Right. Yep.
Right? Be thankful. It's not about putting everybody in prison for life and being mad at everybody. Just be happy when you get results. So, Josue, I want to tell you that I can pretty much tell you that when somebody reads what's actually in your documents and their attorney won't put you in jail, they start realizing this dude might be saying something. Mm-hmm. Right? When they notice when the school boards first started getting upset in Arizona that people were coming showing them the law, they tried to go call the FBI and the DOJ and, hey, Merrick Garland, can you come get these parents, right? Then we sent notices to the DOJ, to the FBI, Merrick Garland, right, which is in the DOJ, and to the Congress. And what happened? The Congress start calling the FBI and the DOJ in front of them and saying, so what do you want to do to these parents? You sure you want to do that? You want to give us some testimony about you believing that you could do that? Why would the federal legislature do that? Because the people gave them notice and let them know, hey, these federal programs you are doing for these schools where you're getting all this money, that's a conflict of interest and you don't have clean hands. And so when you want to send these federal agents who don't have a charter in the FBI to come talk to the people for doing what's their right, already sworn in the Constitution, and the United States accepted the New Hampshire Constitution, Arizona Constitution, you swore that we have the right to talk to our representatives and teach them. Now you're trying to go after people for doing it. That's tortious interference with the contract that we have. So you really don't want to do that, right? Then the Fed is like, oh, we good. We love the parents. The parents are great people.
Take it
back. Was cool. It was cool when we were stupid. So just have grace and mercy on your public service and don't give up, because it's not about the first notice. It's not about the second notice. It's about opening the door for communication. And the people, like Ken is proving it, the people saw Josue teaching and talking. And Ken said he enjoyed it and he was happy about it. So that goes to show, guys, when you get out here and do this stuff, there's good people like Ken watching. Ken by himself is more than enough, right? That is a victory because you got a good man who's now in office who understand these principles and full of love and just want to do right. That's a blessing from God. Now I'm done talking. Everybody can talk.
Awesome. Yeah. So closing thoughts. Ken, anything else you want to say before we close the show? Wonderful show.
I said it before, but really an honor to be on with you guys.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Cool. So yeah, Ken, Dave, thank you for having us on your show. And definitely we if anything else in the future comes up, anything that we want to share, we'll be glad to come back on, hopefully, or go on my channel so I can get that worked up with my subs. Oh yeah, one thing to remind the audience to please sub and subscribe to my Lugo channel, Lugo Take Action Now channel.
Make sure you share a link so they can see it.
I'm not sure if I'll be able to. Is Melly Mel on? I not always see Melly Mel or Life to
Or
Trip.
give it to me, or if you wish to give it to me later, and I'll add it to the subscription of this video and the other.
Oh, all right, cool. All right, cool, definitely. So yeah, guys, please subscribe, hit the notification to my channel, stay updated to my meetings I go to, so you guys get inspired as well. See me in action. That's one of my things why I named my channel Lugo Take Action Now, is I want people to take the action now, do something, instead of complaining of the issues going on, around you, whether politics, your health, so you can name anything. You just got to take the action to better. You can't just, it won't get better by itself. You got to do the steps to make it better. So yeah, that's my closing. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity. It was a blast. I learned a lot as always, and yeah, awesome, man. Close it off, Dave.
Peace.
All right, see you, Ken.
Thanks, guys.
Love you guys. Y'all be cool. Stay out of trouble. You are live with Dave, Josue, and Mr. Ken Tassi Jr. It has been a blessed day. Everybody, please share this video and get it out. It's not often that we get to have awesome servants in public office that are dropping fire to us and teaching us. So this is beautiful. I love it.
Yep.
So we will catch you guys later. Y'all be cool. Stay out of trouble. Peace.
All right. Take care.